is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical. I mean, it's 5:30 on the dot on the East Coast, 2:30 on the West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. Of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. I'm joined today by the typing very angrily, Grant Neefer. Grant,
I'm quote tweeting you.
Be a professional, man. Like, to take your mic away from the keyboard. Is that so difficult?
Yes.
Okay.
You have no idea what my setup looks like.
I
have
don't.
a bowl of soup next to me.
Why do you have a bowl of soup next to you?
I have a blood pressure monitor with one battery.
Okay.
Missing the second battery. I have a hammer.
What was the last good soup they invented? I can't think of one. They just stopped trying,
soup.
right?
Well, tomato soup's good if you're dipping a grilled cheese in there.
But that was invented like in the 1800s or something, right?
No, I don't know. I'm not a soup historian.
You're not a soupologist?
Is that what it is?
I don't know. Just adologist anything. It sounds legitimate to me. Probably not. That's probably not the case. But chat. What up, chat? Feel free to like, subscribe.
I have here?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not watching you. It feels like you've wandered away from your mic. But
this is a year old. Apparently, this is from St. Patty's Day last year.
What did you do for that? So that dare I ask?
For actual St. Patty's Day, nothing. Weekend before St. Patty's Day, which I should have been doing nothing. Different story. Will not say.
Do you want to elaborate on that? You just want to leave it up to the imagination of the people watching?
Bars. Not a smart move.
7-game NBA DFS slate going down 7 o'clock as far as the tip off. There's 2 games that start at 7 o'clock, and we've gotten some injury news already. That's going to be, we'll have to talk about it. Of course, SBK is going to join us about 15 minutes or so from the projection team. You guys know if you want those projections for yourself, get yourself $10 off the first month of RG Premium. You want just one sport, just basketball, a la carte. The link's going to be dropped in chat. I did say hello to chat before. $10 off, or you can get $10 off the entire site, with the exception of NASCAR, all the other sports that are going down, including golf, who, by the way, pre-show, Grant told us he's a professional. You're a golf professional.
I'm a pro.
Are you available?
By the way, French onion soup is fantastic.
That's not a new soup.
Okay,
that's been around.
How often do you French onion soup with a new cheese? That's a new soup because it has a new cheese.
You're just making things. No, first of all, French onion soup with a new cheese is not a soup. Like, you can't order that. It's not called anything. There's no name.
Yeah, French onion soup with Gruyere is the normal one. What if I order French onion soup with a nice smokehouse cheddar?
Oh, nobody puts smokehouse cheddar and French onion. That's not a thing. Yeah, soup is overrated.
I mean, I've done it before. I do what I want. I'm an adult.
You are an adult, and yes, you can have whatever you'd like, but that's a terrible idea. Nobody's going to purchase your soup. Your soup company is going to go under, unfortunately.
I am a gourmand, which I believe is how it's pronounced.
I just got a really, really loud horn in my ear. And why did I get a really loud horn in my ear? Oh, because I am drafting for baseball on Fantrax. I am up, and of course, the player I had in my... Nobody cares about this. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I'm drafting for baseball. I was sitting on JT Real Muto. Now I don't know what to do.
Tim Tebow.
This is daily fantasy. He retired. This is daily fantasy sports. It was a good run. All we care about is today and today only, Grant. And today we have a 7-game basketball slate. Do like and subscribe. We were talking in the chat there earlier. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We're going to be having a conversation about the slate shortly. If we're not talking about players that you want us to talk about, feel free to ask. Devin's going to be pulling those questions, and Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, will be jumping on last 15 minutes or so, give or take, and they'll be firing those questions at us.
Butternut squash soup.
That's not new. Butternut squash is not a new thing.
It's not a new thing, but it's new as a soup.
You just Googled and you've never even had this before.
Oh, no, I have had it, and I did not Google.
Oh, really? You weren't Googling? Well, I heard you typing.
No, I was thinking through soups in my head.
Butternut squash. Fade the butternut squash, by the way. As far as body parts tonight, Joel Embiid, this just broke. He's not just questionable. He's not highly questionable. He's very questionable tonight with his ankle. Of course, that's a 7 o'clock game. In theory, we should have that news. I would imagine Dwight Howard would draw the start and all of a sudden give us some value. I've not even checked what Howard's price is, but I imagine it's basically kind of sort of the floor. Teammate Tobias Harris is already out with a knee. So we can really see Ben Simmons, just control everything there for Philadelphia tonight. Kyrie Irving is off the injury report. He's expected to play tonight. Malcolm Brogdon, other side of that Philadelphia game, is still questionable with his knee. We saw TJ McConnell play 46 minutes and change last game when Brogdon did not go. So keep an eye on that one, obviously. For Charlotte, which is the late night hammer, Gordon Hayward is doubtful. Zeller is doubtful. Devontae Graham is still out. Brooklyn, this news just dropped. TLC is out with a foot. That's Luwawu Cabarro. And also Jeff Green is out with a shoulder. Houston, Eric Gordon's questionable with the knee, and John Wall, in theory, quite possibly may rest on the back-to-back, although he didn't play a heck of a lot last night because Houston got absolutely walloped. Spurs, Kelvin Johnson is still out, along with Derek White, Rudy Gay, and Devin Bessel. We got Campazzo, who's doubtful for Denver with the COVID protocols, so we might have a little bit of value you can squeeze out of that if we kind of sort of need it, depending how the rest of the slate breaks. And then there's James Ennis is out for the Orlando Magic. Get excited for Dwayne Bacon night. Not really. Grant, what are we monitoring? I suppose we're monitoring, Joel Embiid, yes?
Yeah, Joel Embiid is obviously the biggest key to the slate. It's going to change some things around a little bit. And obviously Dwight Howard becomes a possibility. I think Milton gets a pretty significant bump already, and he's going to get more of a bump if Embiid's out there just because more of the usage go around. Tony Bradley is a potential tournament option, potential play. Ben Simmons, I think it's a bump. So yeah, and I mean, the interesting thing is the line for the Pacers is sitting at 2.5. It only moved. I mean, it started at 5 this morning. I actually liked it at 5, assuming that Embiid and Harris were going to play. I think I wrote that up, and I've now bet the Pacers side of it, strangely enough, because DraftKings waited way too long to move the line, so I was able to get a decent amount of money. I mean, I could cash out for a pretty decent profit already, but not entirely planning on doing that.
Who would do that? Just, go for it, man. Let it ride.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just basically paying double rent. I'll wait, or double rake, double whatever. I think it's because Embiid hasn't been fully ruled out. I expect when Embiid gets fully ruled out, unless Brogdon gets ruled in, the line will move more towards the Pacers. But yeah, like Embiid's by far the biggest news. I'm kind of going under the assumption that he's not going to play, which is weird because Vegas kind of seems like they're under the assumption that he is going to play. So I just don't know. But outside of that, I mean, like nothing really big right now. Like Hayward, Zeller, both doubtful. I don't think they're going to play. Eric Gordon questionable is probably the biggest potential news, and Jetty. But that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, Houston does have, they just keep getting Wall. They do have plenty of bodies in theory, even if we see Gordon. Well, if Gordon and Wall go out, then all of a sudden there's a bit of a squeeze. A guy like Sterling Brown.
Do you think that they're going to rest Wall? Like obviously I haven't seen anything. He wasn't on the injury report.
Well, he's not injured, but it's just the load management. They put some kind of weird tag on him, and then this is what they've done all season long. I could be wrong on this, but I feel like Wall has not played a back-to-back.
No, he has not. But they also, maybe he did once, or maybe that was Westbrook. I think he might have when they played the Wizards, but that might have just been Westbrook on the other side because he was playing Houston. But they generally hold him out on the second and back. They mentioned that they might play him because his limited minutes last night because that game was not good. But yeah, that's kind of the rationale behind it. People still think Wall might be out, but I'm going under the assumption that he's in, and they probably won't play more than 20 some odd minutes.
What's the point of that? Like, what's the point of having the half measures? Like, either play him or don't play him. And we were expecting
so that you save him for the future because you're not going to make the playoffs this year.
Because when the Rockets are theoretically good, John Wall is going to be on that team.
It very well could be. They've gotten a decent haul for everyone. Like they have some pieces. They have some rebuilding money. Like they did things well. Rockets know what they're doing, getting rid of both Westbrook and getting rid of Harden. Like they've kind of made themselves a potential contender in a year or two. They have enough money. Like Oladipo's contract's up this year. Whether they want him to stay or not is probably more towards the not staying. They offered him.
Well, he turned down with the 2-year, $45 million offer.
Because they want a longer term one. So it was basically they wanted to see if they had a certain price tag where they would have kept Oladipo. And that's why they traded LeVert for him, because they wanted him, but they wanted him at a certain price tag. Without them, and they have plenty of money to move. They're one of the biggest markets, so they can pick up new guys.
They have a very cheap owner, though.
Do they?
Yeah. It's not worth getting into. But, we got SBK joining us like 5 minutes or so. He's going to tell us, his thoughts as far as Philadelphia. Hopefully we get some clarity and just like the what-if stuff. I did pull up Dwight Howard is, 3.5 on DK. He's 4.2 on FanDuel. I know we've seen it before where Tony Bradley also does some things as well too. Like I would imagine Howard would get first crack. We've seen it before where Howard gets first crack and all of a sudden Bradley is the better player amongst the two. But most exciting for me, well, we'll talk about it obviously. We'll kind of wait in that conversation, but I think that Ben Simmons is a really, really strong play. And I don't like the fact that we have 2 games at 7:00. And of course, these 2 games can be highly influential on your lineups, depending on how information drops. And if Brogdon's out, it's going to be hard not to play McConnell, who's like close to a fantasy point minute guy. And I wouldn't expect him to play 46 minutes again, but 38, 39, 40, not out of the question. Once upon a time, he used to play for the 76ers, and that does some things for some people. Let's just say Embiid's not playing, right? There's still plenty of centers tonight. Jokic, you got the Joker. We got Vukovic. Well, if you want to throw Embiid in a conversation, again, I'm working on the assumption he's out. Just why would you say he's very likely to be out, or whatever the terminology that Doc
Very
used?
questionable because Doc Rivers is an a-hole.
No, I mean, what? I mean, I don't get.
Malcolm Brogdon, still a game time decision. Gosh, just give us news.
How is that? Like, I guess he's probably warming up before the game or something like that. We do have Kareem Prince, who's been ruled out for what it's worth there. Take that. That's very exciting. I figure I might as well just drop that news to the people. Well, big spends, I guess we can say. Are we going? You want the center conversation? You want the big spends conversation? Because the big spends tonight, they're definitely out there. Harden, I know he wasn't good last time out, and whatever. How did he not do good with Kyrie not playing and Katie not playing? Well, he played so many minutes that weren't that many, obviously, but they got blown out. They got walloped. Luka Doncic against Orlando. Lillard's going to have a massive usage against Charlotte. Charlotte on a back-to-back, and they're defensively poor. Let's just say that. Sure, why not? Is there any big spends that you're prioritizing over the others? Because it's tough, man. It's pretty condensed for me.
I mean, it was going to be Embiid, but that obviously changed. It's probably Harden and Jokic. Those are my 2 big spends, but I don't really need to play either of them. Honestly, one of my favorite plays on the slate is right at about 9K. Do you know who that is?
Well, I don't know. Is it Kyrie Irving?
No.
Is it Ben Simmons?
I'll give you a hint. He's at like Ben Simmons might change it around a little bit now, but he's at, I think, like 2% ownership.
Jamal Murray?
Jamal Murray.
Yeah, he's good. And like he's, we're not exactly getting full on like bubble Murray, but obviously he's been better of late too. And at the beginning of the year, he was dealing with some minor injuries and things like that. And it's not like Chicago is a team you're running afraid of. They are a fast-paced team that has a poor defensive alignment. So it's also, I guess, kind of sort of somewhat leverage away from Jokic. Campazzo is out, and I think that makes Dozier kind of sort of somewhat interesting on DK, and that all sort of depends on.
He's projected at 30% ownership. I'd say he's interesting.
Well, it's the thing. The thing is that could change because Dozier is not like a lock. And I'm curious to get SBK's take on Dozier in Denver because, those Campazzo minutes have to go somewhere, and they have a pretty condensed rotation there in Denver. Dozier has come back from injury not too long ago himself, but I don't know. I don't feel fully comfortable with that, but I think he's also playable too. And it depends upon if Dwight Howard all of a sudden gets opened up, then maybe we don't need Dozier. But I think it's, once again, as always, it's shaking up like a stars and scrubs kind of slate, DK specific, FanDuel as well too to some degree. But we got SBK joining us just a couple minutes or so. Hey, I do want to ask you this. Let's just knock this and get this out of the way before we bring in SBK, because we want to mention the SuperDraft promo. You're actually rocking the SuperDraft t-shirt. If you sign up for SuperDraft using the promo code Grinders, that's GRINDERS. This is exclusive for RG promotion only. $150 immediate matchup deposit bonus on any deposit of $150 or more. The normal deposit, is my understanding, is a $50 matchup matching bonus up to $50. So now we're marking it all the way up to $150. Deposit $150, you get an immediate matching deposit bonus of $150. And Grant, it just so happens to work out. You are the savant of SuperDraft, and you have some core plays for the people tonight. And also tell them about your video and tell them about their start times that they tend to be a little different sometimes.
Yeah, so start time is an hour after the DK lock today. They're just getting rid of the first 2 games. Boom, don't even have to worry about the Embiid news. Does not matter for them. So the start time is a little bit later. We're running a show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes live, sometimes pre-recorded. But yeah, it's going to be breaking down the entire SuperDraft slate today, but there's a very, very clear core today. It's Harden, Lillard, Levine, and Jokic. Jokic is by far the best play at center. Like, you can fade him in tournaments if you want, but the only reason you're doing that is because of ownership. He's going to come in highly owned. Like, those got 4 guys you want in your cash games. Absolutely. You throw Levine in at the forward position because forward is trash, absolute trash today. So it's kind of those 4 guys. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go over at the guard position. and a few different ways you can go at center, but just quick breakdown. It's Jokic, it's Jared Allen, and it's Cantor at the center position are the main guys you want to go with. There's anyone else you can play in big field tournaments, but those are the main guys. At the guard, it's tons of guys: Garland, Sexton, Rozier, LaMelo, Dame, and Harden are the main three, probably your cash game guys, but Garland, Sexton, Rozier, Kyrie, DeJounte Murray, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray is my favorite tournament play. John Wall, DeMar DeRozan are all the main guys that you're playing in tournaments at guard. Like, there's a lot to pick from. But at forward, it's pretty much Levine, Zion, and Brandon Ingram. Those are your cash game guys. Probably someone you're going to be overweight with on tournaments. You can throw Michael Porter Jr. in there. Daniel House, depending on if Gordon ends up playing. Like, there's a few guys you can go off the board, but the core is pretty set today when it comes to super draft at the forward position, at the center position. Not as much so at the guard, but Harden, Lillard, Levine, Joker is where you should start all your builds for cash and for the smaller tournaments and like the triple ups.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just math, like understanding. I'm not sure if you said it there for the people if they're not aware. If you're new to super draft, different kind of concept. Salary doesn't matter. It's just a multiplier, and just sort of figuring out each player has that's a designated multiplier based upon how good or not good they are from a fantasy perspective. And just grant, it's just you busting out your calculator, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am a calculator. But yeah, if you guys want to, after crunch time, go and throw on the video if you want to make some super draft plays over there. And if you sign up using promo code Grinders, again, you get a free $150 if you deposit $150. It's that simple.
All right, right on cue. We have Keats with us. SBK, what up? Happy Monday. Talk us through the situation as far as what's going down in Philly. I assume you're now working under the operation that Embiid's going to be out since he's now very questionable.
Yeah, we are kind of working under that assumption now. I think we're actually, just before I hopped on, we are, I think, going to upload the projections with him out. We do have an if-then in for premium users, so you can kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like. It might be a bit different once we actually get it on site. Sometimes we'll tweak these things, kind of through lock, kind of depending on what's going on. But you can get an idea of the breakdown. So obviously, given that the Pacers play two bigs, I think we're going to be projecting Dwight Howard to start, and that will kind of make him a pretty appealing DFS option. He gets a pretty sizable upgrade with Embiid out. In terms of like that, like where does that production go? Ben Simmons, I think, is a phenomenal play in any format. I was looking at a query with Harris and Embiid off the floor. Ben Simmons averages 1.3 fantasy points per minute. Another thing that was a little bit surprising to me, with Harris and Embiid off and Ben Simmons on the floor, Shake Milton still averaging 1.15 fantasy points per minute. And even with Embiid or with Simmons not on, he's still 1.17. So I think in terms like the value on Philly, he's probably my favorite option. But yeah, I mean, with no Harris, no Embiid, there's a ton of production to go around here. Seth Curry is going to be a guy who's going to take more shots. Hopefully he shoots the ball a little bit better than he did the other night. Furkan Korkmaz would think he'd have more offensive responsibility. But for DFS purposes, it's Simmons, Seth Curry, Shake Milton, and then Dwight Howard kind of another guy I think on the radar there as well.
To see who's drawing the start here as well. I mean, they've surprised us before with like Mike Scott drawing the start. I mean, it's hard to get excited over him, but yeah, we do want to pay attention as far as the starting lineup. And as of right now, we're expecting Embiid to sit. How about the other side? If Brogdon doesn't go, I know you're prepared for these things, or you try to prepare for these things. How many minutes can you possibly project for TJ McConnell? Like 40, 39? How high can you get?
Well, if you're using last game as a basis, it would be 46. That's what he played with Brogdon out the other night. Jeremy Lamb also still questionable.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I in terms of a median projection for McConnell, I would have a tough time envisioning we'd be able to get much higher than like 38 or 39. Yeah. But yeah, curious to see what's going to happen exactly with that. I believe we actually do have an if-then up for Brogdon as well. I think the only real situations outside of Houston in terms of the what-if stuff is kind of in that Indiana-Philly game. We would obviously have TJ McConnell getting a pretty big upgrade. We would have him at 35 minutes, it looks like, in the what-if projection. So that could rise slightly depending on how we shake that out. But that is also with Jeremy Lamb projected in. So, yeah, still some moving parts on that side. But, yeah, McConnell would be the big winner there for sure if Brogdon can't go. And obviously Domantas Sabonis still a phenomenal play in all formats.
Keach, just in case people don't know, where can you find the if-then page?
So how I usually do, I mean, you can usually just go to the NBA tab on the Rotogrinders homepage and you'll see it there. You can also find it if you go to the Situation Room, which is kind of a page that I'm on all day on RG. And there's a little blue banner at the top of that page that you can just click on. It'll take you right to the what if projections.
Wow. I didn't know it was, I just pulled it up and I was not aware that's where it was at. I just got to wait for things to sort of fall on the site. And I didn't realize this was kind of like you can get a peek ahead. I should be aware of such things. Hey, Campazzo is not officially ruled out, but I think he's doubtful. We're assuming he's not going to play, and that in theory shouldn't matter so much. But where the cap is tight on DK, and you want to spend up on where guys like Harden and Luka and Lillard and Jokic are too cheap, even though they're super expensive. You want to try to get 2 or 3 of them, 3 stuff too, for sure. I'm looking for some cheapies. Is it possible I can get some PJ Dozier? How thin is that?
I mean, we haven't projected for 24 minutes, so I mean, he's not a bad per minute producer by any means, and I think he would get some of what Campazzo would leave behind. You'd be digging kind of deep, but I mean, at 3.2, there's worse things that can happen. I mean, obviously, Michael Porter is a guy who, like, if he's on, he's amazing, but they also seem to occasionally have quick hooks for him. Dozier would be a guy who I think would potentially benefit from that. So if you're kind of playing it from that angle, maybe. Aside from that, I do love Jamal Murray on the slate. Despite his price tag kind of continuing to rise, still interested in him. The rising price tag is absolutely warranted. He's like kind of taking it to another level over the last 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, I'm not feeling great about any of the value on Denver. Like even with Monty Morris in the starting lineup, like playing with Murray and Jokic more, he's not really appealing. So it'd be kind of, if you're looking at the value there, Dozier, I guess you'd kind of taking a flyer on.
Great. You got anything else for SBK before you let him go and start working on some things?
No.
He said Murray. Yeah, Grant likes Murray as well too. I'm not sure if you were watching the show previously before you jumped on, but both of you guys are big fans of Murray tonight for good reason.
The guy that hasn't gotten less than 20, has only gotten less than 25 points once in the last 8 games.
Well, I'm not saying
we're not really going out on the limb there with that one. But that's Chicago back.
We are. He's projected at 2% ownership.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's just he's just so expensive, and I guess he's still projected 42 fantasy points. So yeah, it's a little bit surprising. Maybe that should be a shade higher, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be that popular. So
he won't.
I don't think he will be either, just because of salary cap reasons. People want to spend all the way up, and also this is about as high as Murray's been all season long.
Dean, I don't know if you noticed, we live in the world of the salary cap.
What? Explain that to me. We were just talking about SuperDraft, and there wasn't a world of
no salary cap on SuperDraft. So if you're down some points as the night goes on, you can swap over to Murray. Boom, boom, boom.
And I know you said this before. Oh, good, SBK.
I think Houston is like the one other situation that I feel like I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit.
Good luck.
So we do have John Wall projected. He hasn't played in a back-to-back yet. There was some kind of coach speak yesterday that kind of suggested that if he was feeling okay, they might be able to play him. And at this point, it seems like he's going to play. But that's a big situation I think to still keep an eye on. That game starts at 9 Eastern, or is it 8 Eastern time for that one? I think Lineup HQ might have that. Yeah, that is okay. I think the start time now is Lineup HQ is weird. But so yeah, definitely keep an eye on that one through lock, because that if Wall sits, I mean, that changes Houston in a big way. So just something to continue to monitor there. We have him listed as probable in the Situation Room, and I would imagine he plays. But yeah, I mean, if he sits and Eric Gordon sits, that changes pretty much everything on the Houston side.
I did it in Tennessee time for what it's worth. By the way, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock East Coast for Cleveland, Houston. Okay. Can I ask you one more before we get out of here? As far as saving salary and as far as some cheapies, and we're talking about Houston, how interested are we in Patton, who's still really, really cheap on DK?
I'm terrified. I'm curious to see if he starts again. He played 26 minutes in yesterday's game. Was kind of a blowout. He did play some in the fourth quarter as well.
He fouled out too.
He starts again and say it again.
I believe he fouled out, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think he did. But yeah, I mean, if he's able to start again and play minutes in the mid 20s at 3.2K, there's definitely a path to success there. But they have other options. Obviously, they could play Jayshawn Tate at center. They could play Tucker there. But Cleveland is a bigger team. At least they tend to be sometimes. So I'm curious to see if he starts, though. I wouldn't have a huge issue going that route, given how cheap he is.
Appreciate your time. All right. If you guys want to see his work and all the work from the Hard RG team, as far as lineup HQ, as far as all the videos, Grant's video is actually free. I'm hearing a buzzing noise. Is that phone still on the hook? What's going on there, Devin? What's that buzzing noise in my ear? I'm not really sure. Is that you, Grant? Are you making
No,
noises?
get him out of here, Devin.
Do you hear it?
SBK.
Grant, you hear it? Is that just me?
Yes, it's there. It's there.
It's very annoying. I don't know if the people.
Some people will say the same thing about your voice.
Well, no, it's true. You ever hear yourself on a voicemail or whatever? Like, that's how I sound so much cooler in my head. I apologize that anybody has to listen to this. Seriously, it's terrible.
I too apologize to anyone that has to listen to Dean.
You sound all right. Oh, I thought you were going to say yourself, but you sound okay. You sound super masculine. Myself, not so much. But hey, you know who else we're going to hear from? Devin, D-Trade, in about 8 minutes, 9 minutes, give or take. He's going to be taking your questions from chat. Fire them away. We're going to start digging into as far as our favorite spend ups today. If we don't talk about your players, you have a 2v2, you have a broader question, by all means ask. We'll do our best to answer.
Or if you have a question about abroad.
Question about what now?
Abroad.
This is 2021, Grant. Come on.
No, I'm talking about going abroad, overseas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
With all the COVID restrictions, it can be very confusing.
I don't think your lady friend would appreciate this type of speak here, Grant.
No, I was talking about going abroad.
Yeah, sure. That which has nothing to do with anything we're talking about, Grant. You know what?
Either did the other thing you thought I was saying.
Well, this would be right on par. This is basically that's your MO, right? That's your wheelhouse. Just sort of going off for no particular reason. Yeah. So ask some. Oh, and let us know. Tournament is it for FanDuel? Is it for DK? Hey, is it for SuperDraft? Grant will knock that one out for you people as well. All right. Just feel free to fire away there in chat. Do hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and all that. You have all the money in the world. Forget about whatever. Your favorite plays tonight, just from who's gonna smash, just who's gonna absolutely crush. Is it Harden? Is it Jokic? Is it Lillard? Is it Luka Doncic? How are you separating who were? Can you give me a ranking system? Maybe let's start with the guards. So let's cut out the big man for once and talk about Harden versus Luka versus Lillard, because that's a tricky conversation.
Harden 1, Luka 2, Lillard 3. Easy conversation. I mean, there is Lillard's more of a correlation play because Charlotte is going to be fairly chalky, I would assume, at this point. So if you want to bring it back, then Lillard's the obvious option. But if we're just talking about raw points per dollar, I slide slightly on Luka over Lillard and then slide on Harden over either.
Oh, all right. Site specific. Let's kind of pull out some stuff as far as our ownership. And this is obviously subject to change based upon new information. And I'm not sure if we have. Let's just check and see if we have the Philly stuff baked in now, because I'm curious if we have. We're under the assumption that we still have Embiid in for what it's worth. So again, that's going to change. Grant, are you typing away furious? I thought I told you to move your keyboard away from your microphone. What's going on over there?
Does it sound better now?
Oh God!
I'm whispering.
I'm going to start.
I've heard that some people are into this, Dean. Do you like
what
it?
What is this ASMR? Is that what it's called?
I believe it's ASMR.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a side gig,
it gets the people going. Nobody knows what it means, but it's provocative.
I feel like it's a different demographic. I don't know. Maybe this will work for you. I'm not really sure, Grant, but by all means, I will follow your YouTube channel if you want to start this up. But I'm not here to judge, man. Whatever makes you happy and it doesn't hurt anybody, by all means, enjoy yourself. But I don't get it. Do you get it, Grant?
Do I get what? Talking like this? It's very soothing. I would listen to myself as I go to sleep talking like this.
I would not go to sleep listening to this, I don't think. Hey, we should talk about the Charlotte Hornets. They're down to just 9 bodies, right? Charlotte Hornets. Well, we're under the assumption that Zeller's not going to play. We know Graham's not going to play. We're also under the assumption that Hayward's out. LaMelo Ball looks like a phenomenal play on FanDuel. On DK, there's a little bit of sticker shock, but I think it's justified as well. I really wish PJ Washington didn't go absolutely nuts last night, because everybody's going to chase that, and there's no reason not to outside of ownership reasons. He's still, he's playing a lot of backup 5. Who knows what's going to go on with Bismack Biyombo? It seems like maybe Biyombo gets a little more run there with big man Cantor on the other side. But PJ Washington's a really, really strong play no matter what in this slate. What do you do with the Hornets in general? Because they look pretty good. And even I hate playing Malik Monk, and he's super reliant on scoring, but he's been doing that. Actually, he's got to put points in the bucket. Yeah, there you go. And sometimes he even closes, depending on how things are going down. We might see Jalen McDaniels draw a start. talk to me about the Hornets. And it's also an hour and a half after the 6th game, which is somewhat interesting, at least.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of guys that you can end up going with. LaMelo, probably the best play on all sites. Rozier is a little bit tough to play outside of over on SuperDraft, where he's at a 1.45 multiplier. PJ Washington is going to be chalky, and I think that it is beneficial to kind of throw him into your lineup and then see where you're at. You already mentioned that the game is an hour and a half after lock, so my plan is to kind of stack up that game a few different ways, knowing that I can switch things around based on how well the rest of my lineup is doing. Obviously, throwing chalky pieces like the Philly game in there, and then riding it out, seeing where you're at, seeing what hit, and then swapping around from PJ Washington maybe over to less chalky options like, I don't know, Rozier. It's unlikely that he's really going to go off, but if you have a lot of room to make up, Rozier still has a possibility of going for a 50-point game with Hayward off, with Zeller off, with Graham out. They all take up a decent amount of usage. So Rozier can go back to where he was, a week and a half ago, where he was putting up 25 shots a game. He's still shooting 40% from behind the arc so far this year. He gets hot, then LaMelo's going to be dishing the ball out to him a decent amount, and he can end up with a 50-point game just based purely off of good shooting. So I think that it's a possibility to play Rozier in your lineup if you make the right kind of swaps in the last game of the night. Maybe you have Lillard and someone else, and you kind of swap it over to Rozier and Melo, or you can throw Cantor in there, or you can throw Washington in there, swap it off over to Cantor, maybe drop down from Lillard down to what's his name, Rozier. Like, there's a lot of different ways that you can end up going in the later game. And the fact that it is an hour and a half afterwards, I'm planning on making a lot of swaps. Or if you're over on SuperDraft, have a lot of room to make up, need something more, or if you just have multiple duplicate lineups, one less than the other, it makes sense to swap off of guys like Lillard, guys like LaMelo over to Rozier, or guys like PJ Washington over a guy like Covington. So there are a few different ways that you can end up doing things, especially over on SuperDraft in that game, just based off of ownership and how many points you need to make up.
You had the shortest ASMR career ever. You went away from that somewhere in the middle of your whole rant. I did my lights over here for you. Hopefully it's not screwing with Devin. He'll come on in a minute or so and let me know if I screw.
It's all right. The
up.
less we can see of your face, the better. Because
hey, you know what?
Looks so much better in the dark, D.
Yes. Well, I'll take any compliment I can get from you, Grant. I do appreciate that.
I believe that was a diss, not a compliment.
Well, I can interpret it however I like. By the way, I do want to mention, we were talking about SuperDraft. Also, FanDuel, the single entry series continues tonight. I believe 2 different things are going down. The 222 single entry series, which I am in, and the $1 dribbler, which I'm not allowed to play, Grant. I got kicked out of that, unfortunately. I don't know if you're partaking over there, but the 222 single entry on FanDuel, we had the 25 and the 100. Now we worked our way up to 222, and apparently the NBA dribbler, the $1, is also available as well. If you guys are playing on FanDuel, highly advised. I just love single entry contests.
The listeners out there that don't know about the single entry series, go ahead and explain what.
No, it's a whole thing. It's a whole. It's just there's added value to it.
Do I have to play the entire? Like, obviously there's added value, but do I need to have played the entire season?
No,
the entire series, or is it just 1 week?
It's the top 4 scores in the week. In theory, if you have 7 bulls, you play every single day. You get the best chance to get 4 optimal scores. Now, if you go 4 for 4 and crush every single time, you don't have to do it. And basically, the top total of the week books an entry in an online final, which I believe was $30,000 in total. The leaderboard is also on RG as well. But yeah, I mean, look, the people know that. I think they know that. If they don't know that, well, whatever.
Dean, I had forgotten about it. Sorry, thank you for reminding me. I like it better when it's the 222 entry because I just like to play less people,
Yeah, I think it's like 500 people tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is already sold out, so I already done fudged up.
You're supposed to, you got to pounce in those things, man.
I normally do.
Devin, can you give us your best ASMR voice when you jump on it? Is this one of your things? I can see Devin having a good voice for that.
Soothe me with the soothing sound of your soothing voice.
I really wasn't prepared for this. This was not the YouTube channel I thought I was working with.
Devin, I was told you're a multitasker and you have a wide range of skills.
I was told in high school that in the morning announcements, I helped out with the morning announcements. Shocker, sure. Given where I'm at now.
Humble brag.
Yeah, well, high school, they told me that I had the voice for radio, and there was video involved. So,
Devin, you absolutely do have the voice for radio.
Do you want to do you have any lines you want to add to that, Grant, about anybody else that might have like the face for radio?
Fishing.
Dean,
is that
you in fact don't have the
Grant?
face or voice for radio. Dean, you are a very handsome man.
This is the interwebs, Grant.
I was hoping you would enjoy it when I say it in this voice.
I wonder what the chat is thinking in this voice. I wonder if they're creeped out or.
I gotta say, this is intense because I've got these can headphones on now, so it's all going straight into my brain, Grant.
I'm going to be hearing this when I'm sleeping tonight.
Everyone in chat, drop a 1 if you enjoy it. Drop a 2 if you don't enjoy it. Drop a 3 if you are aroused.
That would be 1. That's redundant, I believe.
Oh,
not to
boy.
be presumptuous or anything.
Well, we got
do we have
questions.
Evan?
We do. Yeah, thank goodness we have questions.
All right.
Please God, the questions. Alex, I guess we're gonna do Grant's tournament, Dean's Cash.
Sure. Let's do it.
Alex, FanDuel single entry tournament. Is Jarrett Allen a lock?
No,
he's not a lock, but he's a really good play. Oh, this is tournament. I'll stay on my lane. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oof. Dean's burner account.
Yeah, he's a solid play.
Go ahead, Grant.
No, that was it. That was the end of it.
Solid play. All right. Dean's burner
Cantor,
account.
I'll just elaborate on that because we haven't talked about it specifically, but Cantor is a really strong play on FanDuel. He's too cheap at 6.3K. Jared Allen is a little bit of sticker shock to him too, but 7.9, especially from a stock perspective, he's a guy that can get 6 or 7 stocks any given game, even more sometimes. You get 3 points, of course, on FanDuel as well. And he crushed in this matchup just a couple days ago, I believe. And he's going to play the minutes, right? He's the guy. He's going to play, assuming barring goofiness, barring blowout, foul trouble, yada, yada, yada. He'll play 35 or so minutes. So he's for sure a really, really strong play on FanDuel. I think the ownership's going to reflect that for what it's worth. You can't get up the Jokic. Jordan's kind of sort of somewhat interesting, I guess, with Green being out, but his minutes are shaky as well. And, you only get one of those spots, et cetera. But I'm running away with this. Devin, feel free to jump in and your best. Surprise me with your voice this time.
Well, I'm actually just laughing at the number of numerical responses we got, some of which weren't even the options. I don't remember what they were, but we got a lot of 3s.
I believe 69 is close to 3, and 420 is close to 1.
A couple of 7s in there too, which you gotta love.
Yeah, sure.
Dean's burner account was asking for Yahoo Cash. Would you play DeMar DeRozan?
Okay, let me pull up my Yahoo rankings, actually, because I did these about an hour or so ago. Let's see. DeMar DeRozan, Cash. I actually have him as my number 1 ranked player. 33. This is Yahoo specific. $33, really good price. So, yeah, I have no problem with that.
All right. We'll get from both of you guys on this one. Jake wanted to know with the Embiid news, how many Philly is too many Philly?
I mean, we still haven't gotten confirmation that Embiid is in fact out. But if Embiid is out, I think that it's viable to play 3 players. And I think you can run with Bradley or Howard, and you can throw in Curry or Milton, and go along with that. You can get Simmons. And it's not a bad idea to bring it back with someone on the other side, Sabonis or Turner. Obviously, a better matchup with either Howard or Bradley on the floor. I have multiple bigs. It's a good situation for both Sabonis and Turner.
You can really play Bradley, though. Come on. That's super ambitious. I get it. Goofy things can happen, but
we've been talking about playing Patton all day.
His role was more solidified, I would say. Well, again, we want to see the starting lineup there, and I assume we'll see if he draws the start today. I have no idea. Either way, he's going to get some run because Houston's dreadful, and they're playing for their future and yada yada. And we also, Gordon's questionable too. I know it's different positions and all that, but in theory, he's a good play, dollar for dollar on FanDuel. Which, by the way, we should also mention. On FanDuel, who's the other guy? It's a good play. Daniel House, small forward in FanDuel is terrible, and I really don't like the fact that I don't like the fact of playing super chalky Daniel House on FanDuel, but we might end up there. Go ahead, Devin.
Legit friend of the show wants to know DK tournament favorite 5-1 play or less.
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how I should answer this. I mean, the answer is probably Howard, but obviously he's significantly under. I'm going to go with Shake Milton.
Nice. Thomas wants to know, same site, same format, tournaments, DK, with Jeff Green out, thoughts on Claxton?
I'm not really a big fan, especially with multiple different centers. It was going to be an all-right pivot based off of a chalkier, low-price guy over in Houston. But now that Howard is on the board, I don't think it's entirely worth it. The chances of all lower-price guys failing and him going off for a big game doesn't really make it a smart idea.
I think he's interesting. I wouldn't say if you like him.
Even with Howard in there.
Well, you could play both. You can go double cheap center and load up on spending on some guards if that's something you want to do. Of course, you're going to miss out on someone like Jokic or Vukovic, but you can get now Luka, you can get Harden, or you get Kyrie or whatever you want to spend up on. But Claxton just looks better than Jordan. If you watch the games, and he's not guaranteed any more than 15 minutes, even if that. But he's got some energy to him. I think he's pretty interesting. But
do you think he gets some extra run with team like San Antonio potentially running out both Podol and LMA at the same time?
Well, that's the thing is that San Antonio, we've seen Pirtle drawing the start, right? And we've seen LMA coming off the bench for what it's worth. And there's Lucas Shamanich, who's also like a guy.
But we've seen extended run between both of them with both of them on the floor.
I think he's an interesting flyer. It's like a stone cold like 1%er. I don't feel good about it, but like just when quote unquote watching the games, he looks better than Jordan out there. Yeah, that's all. I wouldn't besmirch it. I think he's playable, and in like an extreme tournament, I wouldn't have more than like 5% of him, just like a single dart.
There's something absurd about Grant retorting with a whisper. Dean, why don't you try and get this one? Josiah wants to know, why is Cody Martin so highly owned? You want to try and explain that one for him?
Where is Cody Martin highly owned?
Let's see here.
Because I don't think that's the case. I'm not really in on Cody Martin. Like
Cody Martin's projected at 33% ownership over on DK.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we're sort of, I was thinking White on the Bulls for a second for some reason, just because they're thin in Charlotte. Now there's two Martins. Make sure if you're going to click one, Cody Martin's the better Martin, but it's also, they're twins too. It's tricky to figure out what Charlotte's going to do, but they only have in theory 9 guys. But Martin is also kind of thin, but he is still super cheap, and he should probably play around 20 minutes or so. And I would imagine if you give it a refresh, all of a sudden, we're assuming that Howard's going to become a thing. We're talking about some potential cheapies. I feel better about Patton, as far as his actual like drawing fantasy points than Martin. But the build on DK is taking you to spending up on to the big boys, like Harden, spend up on Harden, spend up on Jokic, spend up on Luka, like 2 of those 3, or Lillard. And how do you make that stuff work? Grant, we live in the world with salary cap, so it's not a great play. And we probably haven't projected for 17, 18, 19 fantasy points. Let's go ahead and pull it up. I'm curious now. You got my attention. We have Martin projected for 26 minutes and 19-ish fantasy points on DK, and that's in theory enough, assuming that the big boys put up their 60s.
So while we were doing that, I saw Dwight Howard at 3% owned. I have to imagine that that's going to go up. Do you have an idea where that'll be?
I think we've already updated it so far. Let me double check here. Howard's at 3 points. Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah.
We haven't updated the ownership, but it's probably going to be around 40.
It's going to be, whereas again, under the assumption he draws a start, which and Embiid's not playing, which makes the most sense, at least as of right now. Stuff can change. Crunch time, you got Andy Means coming up in 15 minutes, give or take, and Roth to take all you have to lock, and they'll elaborate more on that. And in theory, we'll have the information because that is the first game. And again, we don't know about Indiana. Lamb is questionable and Brogdon's questionable, and all of a sudden we can have McConnell, and you can't project McConnell to play 41 minutes, but he could definitely play 41 minutes or more. Yeah.
I mean, I would have said the same about 46, but looking at that game log, I'm proven wrong. John.
Nerlens Noel played the entire second half of that game too, I believe. They played 40 minutes yesterday because Taj Gibson got hurt. But nobody cares. He's not on the slate today. So
we only care about today, Dean.
Yes.
John wants to know DK tournaments. Thoughts on Monk, Washington, Allen, Patton, and Mitchell as a core?
That's Charlotte's. Monk and Washington, Charlotte.
Monk, Washington. Jared Allen, I assume. Patton and Mitchell.
Yeah, they're fine.
What's your thoughts on Mitchell and just that game in general? I think it's going to be mostly ignored. New Orleans.
Yeah, Mitchell's probably not going to come in at much ownership. I guess he's a guy that he's at 10%. Play Murray over Mitchell. Play Murray over Mitchell every time. I didn't realize he was coming in at 10% ownership.
Murray's got a big price tag though. It's like some sticker shock.
It's 300 more than Mitchell, and he's a drastically better play than Mitchell.
Well, I'm looking at FanDuel Murray's 8.4K, and on DK it's 8.1K. But he should get plenty of run. Obviously, San Antonio is thin, but not super thin. They still have 11 bodies, I believe, but they are without 4 of their guys that are in their regular rotation, and they are facing Brooklyn, 233 total. It's high and it's fairly tight, just being a 5-point dog there against Brooklyn. Go ahead, Devin.
You were talking about DeJounte Murray. I was on Jamal Murray.
Oh, you know what?
That was very dumb.
Matter. Well, I thought it was worth mentioning the Spurs are a team playing Brooklyn today, and my bad. I just heard Murray and I just kind of ran with it. But NBA DFS is kind of sort of somewhat simple in some degree that you just play the players that are mispriced because all of a sudden their situation is better today than it was yesterday or the last week and what it's priced for. And that's why Utah and New Orleans is going to be ignored, because it's a 236 total. Like 236, it's a monster number, especially for a Utah game. But New Orleans, that's the reason for that, obviously. But I don't think people are playing that game because there's no Utah just sort of is what they are. Conley's been getting some more minutes of late for what it's worth, but that bumps down with Conley and coming back. I think he rested last game. It's going to bump down Clarkson. It's going to bump down Ingles, and there's nobody that has this great appealing price. And Zion is an absolute bruiser, just a bulldozer in the center. But of course, there's the Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert waiting for him. Doesn't mean you can't play him, but it's not the most appealing of matchups, and there's other places to go. So can you play players in that game? Of course, but I don't think they're jumping off anybody's page.
Play whoever you want.
Play whoever you want.
K-Mac.
Play him.
Can you do that in ASMR voice there, Grant?
Play whoever you want.
It's like a Mickey Mouse impression at that point. K-Mac wants to know FanDuel tournament best power forward value and your thoughts.
Let me see. Pulling it up. Obviously changes constantly.
If Trey Lyles starts, he's interesting.
That's
either way.
That was actually
Bridges,
the next question was about
Did you
Trey
say
Lyles.
FanDuel or DK?
That one was FanDuel, yes, tournaments.
Oh, yeah, probably Lyles.
All right. Somebody was asking about their SuperDraft show. You got that to them already, I believe. Eric, if anybody's wondering where it is, it's on our videos page, and I also dropped a link in the YouTube chat. Eric wants to know for DK, why not play McGee who's cheaper on DK?
Then
he takes up a center spot, and he can only play so many minutes. Like McGee's only going to play like 15 minutes or so, and he's not going to play alongside Jared Allen, right? And Jared Allen's going to play 33, 34, 35 minutes. He's a good fantasy point minute guy, but unless he goes absolutely crazy from a stocks perspective and dunks, that's essentially what he is. And he can only play so many minutes. If the game blows out because he has asthma, and he's not even the floor. He's 3-4, which might sound like nothing, but you can't project him for more than like 15 minutes because, again, he only plays when Allen's not playing, and Allen's played 35 minutes.
Jay Kearney would like to know thoughts on Andre Robinson as a cheap punt.
No.
I think he could be interesting come playoff time. Once upon a time, he was a great defensive player.
Yeah, he was
for
fantastic.
OKC. And obviously, they don't need anybody that suck up any usage. And he was awesome on those OKC teams alongside Harden, and Durant. And obviously, he had some severe injuries, but I don't know if it's going to happen today. We might see something. TLC is obviously out, and maybe Tyler Johnson jumps into the starting rotation. Who knows what they're going to do? And Nash has talked about it. He's always thinking about matchups. I don't know. I'm not really sure he'd have to shut down. I guess Murray. I suppose they might throw Brown on Murray, and he'll probably draw the start. But
DeRozan.
Yeah, maybe. So Joe Harris has to start though.
Does he?
I think. Well, I guess he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have to start.
No. Yeah, they have enough usage in the game having Harden or Kyrie in the entire time.
Sure.
So yeah, there's no. I wouldn't be surprised if Harris is the guy off the bench later on, especially once Durant comes back.
Nothing as far as news. Porzingis is still available as far as his back tonight. It's just worth mentioning, though, nobody's going to play. Are people not going to play Sabonis, especially because his price has gone up and it's been justified? But I don't think people see Sabonis in the same category as they do Harden and Luka and Lillard.
He had that 80-point game, but you're just not getting a ton of upside from him. It's more of just you want that consistent 50 points. You're not getting the 70, 80. So it's generally a cash game play, but his price tag has come up too much. That I think
10-1.
Yeah, if Brogdon ends up missing, I think Sabonis gets the largest decrease in fantasy points without Brogdon on the floor.
All right. Well, we are just about at the end of the show today. So, Dean or maybe Grant, you want to take us home in your NPR ASMR voice?
I will yield. Grant, you take us home. I just want to say I've had zero caffeine today. So the chat's speculating that I've had a lot of caffeine. No, has not happened. This is all natural right here. No performance enhancers. With that, speaking of performance enhancers, I will yield to Grant.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Make sure to stay tuned for Meansy, Tuttle, and Roth bringing you down to lock over on Crunch Time right after. It's been fun. Make sure to check out my SuperDraft show, After Lock, if you have not already seen it, and get on over on SuperDraft using the promo code Grinders. Thanks, everyone. Good luck on all your tournaments today. He's been Dean. I've been Grant. This has been Basketball. Holler.
Is this NPR?
Bye.